Me, 29-year-old male, and my wife Angie, 27-year-old female, have a son, Sam, who turned 2 this week. We're part of a friend group made up of 7 people, including us. There is one more couple in this group. The other 3 are Zoe, 32-year-old female, Greg, 41-year-old male, and Tim, 30-year-old male. Zoe doesn't like kids. She openly avoids them whenever she can. I've always known about this and have no problem with it. There have, however, been occasions when she seemed to take it a bit too far. The friend group lives all over the country now, and most of us only get together once or twice a year. This January, we all decided to take a 5-day trip to Greg's beach house. It's in a different state and requires a 2-hour flight. Both Greg and Tim have children. Greg made sure to invite us over, while his child would be with his ex, but Tim is a single father and couldn't afford to leave his daughter with a babysitter for 5 days. Due to that, it was decided that both Tim's daughter and Sam were welcome on the trip. Angie and I offered to leave Sam with my mother-in-law, but the whole group, including Zoe, said it was fine. All of these decisions were made 2 months in advance. 2 days prior to the trip, Tim informed us that his daughter had chickenpox, and he had to cancel their tickets to stay with her. Upon hearing this, Zoe called Angie and said, "I guess your mom will have a busy week." My mother-in-law was traveling and wouldn't be back for another week. We had no other babysitting options available, or time to find one, so we told Zoe that we were still bringing Sam with us. Zoe protested, saying that she was only okay with having kids around during the trip, because she knew Tim had no choice, and we had no excuse to bring Sam now that Tim's daughter wasn't coming anymore. However, we held our ground, and the others took our side. During the trip, Angie and I made efforts to help Zoe avoid Sam as much as possible. This ended up making our own trip underwhelming, as we were spending a lot of time apart and didn't get to see our friends as much as we wanted to, but it worked. Zoe and Sam were in the same room a total of 4 times, including both our arrival and departure from Greg's house. Despite that, she insists that we ruined her trip by bringing him and that it was selfish of us to not consider her feelings about children after Tim dropped out. Zoe hasn't spoken to us since we flew back home. This week, she unfollowed Angie on Instagram 10 minutes after she made a post for Sam's 2nd birthday, so I think she's still bitter. Angie has been feeling guilty about this. I tried to reassure her that we had no other option, and it was unreasonable of Zoe to ask us to change our plans at the last minute like that. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't consider if we might be in the wrong. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Disliking kids is one thing, but people who make it their whole personality are so exhausting and make life needlessly difficult for parents. Zoe is so extra about her dislike of kids. If she wanted to minimize her time with kids on the trip, she should have taken you up on your offer to leave your son with your mother-in-law. She's blaming you because she said it was fine to bring your son, but she had the chance to say no and passed on it. She's pretty delusional if she thinks that 2 days before a trip starts is enough time to find someone to take care of your child for almost a week. Or maybe she's so ignorant about kids that she thinks they're like cats and can just be left at home alone. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I'm not a big kid person. I'm 40 years old, single, and have a cat. Kids are not my thing. Being in the room with a kid should not ruin one's hour, much less their day or week. You also didn't have a choice. Your mother is not a slave. She is not required to put her life on hold just in case you need a babysitter. Even if she was available, you weren't obliged to leave your son with your mother. Next time Zoe complains, I'd be tempted to tell her that she has bigger tantrums than your son, and if it is appropriate for her to be there with her childish behavior, then it's perfectly fine for an actual child to be present. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the comments on my last post. It's been a tense couple of weeks since then, and a lot has happened that I need to get off my chest. So, after Zoe unfollowed Angie on Instagram, things just spiraled. Angie was really upset about it. She's always been the peacemaker in our group, and Zoe's cold shoulder hit her hard. I mean, they've been friends since college, and seeing a friendship crumble over something like this was tough. But here's where it gets juicy. Greg, who's always been the dad of the group, called a sort of intervention Zoom meeting. He's been through a lot, with his divorce and all, and he's always been about keeping the peace. So, we all logged on, and that's when the bomb dropped. Zoe started off by apologizing to Angie, which was a surprise, but then she admitted that her reaction wasn't just about Sam. Turns out she's been dealing with some personal stuff. She recently found out she can't have kids, and it's been a sore spot for her, especially around other people's children. It was a heartbreak she'd been carrying alone, and it explained a lot about her behavior. Angie was in tears. She felt terrible for not seeing the signs of Zoe's pain. But Zoe's confession wasn't the only shocker of the night. Remember Tim, the single dad? Well, he and Zoe had a thing a few years back. It was before he had his daughter, and before Zoe knew about her fertility issues. They'd kept it a secret from the rest of us, but the tension had been there, simmering under the surface. With Zoe's revelation, Tim confessed that he still had feelings for her, and that's why he'd been so quiet during the trip. He was torn up about his daughter being sick and about Zoe's situation. The group was stunned. Angie and I had always thought Tim was a bit of a lone wolf, but it was like watching a drama unfold in real life. But wait, it gets even more complicated. Greg, who's been like a big brother to Zoe, got protective. He and Tim had a heated exchange. Voices were raised and old grudges came to light. Greg had always been wary of Tim's intentions with Zoe, and now, with emotions running high, it all came pouring out. Angie and I were just sitting there, watching as our friend group seemed to be falling apart. It was like a house of cards that had finally collapsed. In the midst of all this, Sam, who had just turned 2, was blissfully unaware of the adult drama. He was just happy to have his mom and dad around. Angie and I had been so caught up in our friends' issues that we'd almost forgotten the simple joy of our little boy. After the call, Angie and I had a long talk. We realized that our friends' lives were more tangled than we'd ever imagined. We'd been so focused on not upsetting Zoe that we hadn't seen the bigger picture. The next day, Zoe reached out to Angie. They met up for coffee, just the two of them. Angie came back looking drained, but said that they'd cleared the air. Zoe had been holding on to a lot of resentment, not just about Sam, but about her own situation. Seeing Angie's post about Sam's birthday had been a tipping point for her. Angie told me that Zoe was going to seek some help to deal with her feelings about not being able to have children. It was a step in the right direction, but the road to healing was going to be long. As for Tim and Greg, they're still not on speaking terms. It's like a rift has formed in our group, and I'm not sure how or when it'll heal. Angie and I are stuck in the middle, trying to support our friends while keeping our own little family happy. Boyfriend wanted to meet my best friend's pet bird Carrot Cake, but when he visited my house, he tried to grab the bird. Oh boy, he's going to regret it. Hello all, I, 24-year-old female, am very unhappy about the entire situation. My childhood best friend Libby, 22-year-old female, has a red-tailed black cockatoo named Carrot Cake. She has had him since she was 5 years old, so she is very attached to him. She only went to a community college to stay home and be near Carrot Cake. All of our mutual friends love Carrot Cake, including myself. We used to hang out at Libby's house a lot, especially when we were kids, just to be with Carrot Cake. My boyfriend Lincoln, 26-year-old male, loves birds. He used to own a few small ones. I did tell him about Carrot Cake, and he became very intrigued and interested. He wanted to meet Carrot Cake. We have only been dating for 2 months, and he hasn't met Libby yet, only a few of my other friends. He asked me some questions, and I assumed he was just curious, so I didn't think much of it. Libby asked me to watch Carrot Cake while she visited her grandparents in another state, and I agreed. It wasn't my first time doing so. Libby dropped Carrot Cake off, and he has been doing great. He's very affectionate and active, and I let him fly around. I invited Lincoln over as he was staying the night. He also invited his best friend, Maxon. They were playing games and doing their own thing while I took a nap. I woke up to loud squawking and flapping wings. I got up and walked into my office to find Lincoln trying to grab Carrot Cake. Maxon was standing there watching. It was clear that Carrot Cake was stressed. I scolded both of them and asked why they were in my office and bothering Carrot Cake. Lincoln said he wanted to hold Carrot Cake. I told him that Carrot Cake isn't familiar with him or Maxon, so he's scared. Lincoln tried to argue, but I told him to go to the living room. I told Maxon to leave. I made sure Carrot Cake was okay, and he was. I put him back in his cage and covered it so he could sleep. I locked my office and took the keys to my room. I told Lincoln not to go into my office without me. Then I went back to sleep and asked Lincoln to do the same. We both went back to sleep. When I woke up, my boyfriend was gone and my keys were missing. I tried calling him, but he didn't answer. I went to check on Carrot Cake and noticed he wasn't there. I panicked and immediately assumed Lincoln took him. I called and texted him until he answered. I asked him to please tell me he had Carrot Cake, and he did. I asked him why he took carrot cake, and he said he wanted to watch him for a day. I hung up and drove to his house. I knocked like crazy and told him to open the door. He opened it a little, but I barged in and got carrot cake. Lincoln was telling me I couldn't just barge into someone's house, but I ignored him and drove back home. I did tell Libby about the whole incident, and she was grateful that I got carrot cake back safely, but she was also very upset about the situation. Lincoln and his friends messaged me saying that I couldn't just barge into someone's house. However, I believe I did the right thing. Am I the idiot? Edit. To the people saying this is AI, I understand that my English is not perfect. I am not a robot, or at least I hope I'm not. Lol. Edit 2. I understand that my English is poor. I apologize for using the word did too much. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, but your boyfriend is terrifying. Like, this is such weird behavior. I know terrifying is a little dramatic, but the way he deliberately waited until you were asleep to kidnap a bird? That's so weird, and also so stupid. There's no way he wouldn't get caught. I would never trust him again. This is such insidious and oafish behavior. He sounds slimy, sneaky, and dumb. You need to run. Comment 2. Not the idiot. But I hope you mean ex-boyfriend now. Lincoln and his friends did message me that I couldn't just barge into someone's house. Well, you can't just steal someone else's pet either. But here we are. You did what you had to do. Don't let these idiots make you feel bad about it. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a busy 3 days since I last posted about the carrot cake incident. I've got some updates that will make your jaw drop, and not in a good way. So after I got carrot cake back from Lincoln, I thought that would be the end of it. But no, things got even messier. Lincoln started blowing up my phone with texts saying he was sorry and that he didn't mean to cause any trouble. He kept saying how much he loves birds and that he just wanted to spend more time with carrot cake. I didn't respond because, honestly, I was still so mad at him. But then, the next day, I got a call from Libby. She was crying and told me that someone had broken into her house. Nothing was stolen, but her room was trashed. The worst part? Her collection of rare bird feathers that she'd been gathering since she was a kid was scattered all over the floor. She was devastated. These feathers weren't just pretty to look at, they were memories of her childhood and her love for birds, especially carrot cake. I immediately thought of Lincoln. I mean, he was obsessed with birds, and after the whole carrot cake situation, I wouldn't put it past him. But I had no proof, and accusing him without any would just make things worse. The next day, I went over to Libby's to help her clean up. While we were picking up the feathers, she found something that made my blood boil. It was a small, unique charm that I had given Lincoln for his birthday. It was something he always had on him, and seeing it there, in Libby's room, was all the proof I needed. I confronted Lincoln about it, and after trying to deny it, he finally confessed. He said he wanted to get back at me for embarrassing him in front of Maxon, and for taking carrot cake back so forcefully. He thought by messing with Libby's stuff, he was getting revenge on me. I was so angry, I couldn't even speak. I just walked away. I told Libby everything, and she was furious. She decided to press charges against Lincoln for breaking and entering. I supported her decision because what he did was beyond wrong. It was a betrayal to both of us. While all this was happening, our mutual friends were taking sides. Some couldn't believe Lincoln would do something like this, while others were completely on Libby's and my side. It was like a bad soap opera, with everyone gossiping and arguing about who was right and who was wrong. But here's where karma comes into play. Remember Maxon, Lincoln's best friend? Well, turns out he was feeling really guilty about the whole thing. He knew about Lincoln's plan to mess with Libby's room and didn't stop him. The guilt was eating him up inside, so he went to the police and gave a statement confirming everything Libby and I said about Lincoln. With Maxon's statement, the police had enough to charge Lincoln. He was arrested and is now facing serious charges. I guess he never thought his actions would have such severe consequences. As for me and Libby, we're trying to move past this. It's hard though. Trust has been broken, and it's going to take a long time to rebuild it, if it can even be rebuilt at all. I've decided to take a break from dating for a while. I need to focus on my friendships, especially with Libby, and make sure carrot cake is safe and happy. Nephew I raised for 20 years stole my money and threatened to kick me out of my own apartment. Oh boy, I kicked him out, and now my whole family is mad at me. But then I find out the truth. Okay, so I'm female and I'm 25 years old and my nephew is 20. This all happened a few weeks ago, but here's some backstory. Me and my nephew grew up together, and I took care of him for most of my childhood and teen years. Even though we're 5 years apart, I still had to take care of him, and I really never minded. He's family, and I care for him a lot, but growing up, he would steal my stuff and not give it back, or give it back ruined or damaged. Instead of getting in trouble, it was always me getting in trouble since I was the oldest. Since he had a rough childhood, I had to let him do whatever he wanted. I honestly did not like that, because I raised him the best I could being a teenager, and I didn't have a choice. I had to clean, I had to cook for him, and it made me upset, but that's in the past. Currently, I have an apartment, and I needed help paying rent, and my nephew offered to live with me and pay some rent. His college is a 10-minute drive away from there, and where we used to live, it's like a 40-minute drive, so he moved in with me. At first, he was paying it, and then slowly, he stopped paying it. Obviously, I let him know that he does have to pay rent, and that if he could pay me soon, and he never did. He just said that since I am his aunt, and I'm older, I have to pay for everything for him, which pisses me off. I know that I didn't raise him to be like that. I found out that he was doing certain things that he wasn't supposed to. I also found out he's been stealing money from my room. He doesn't give money for anything. He just goes to school and stays in my apartment rent-free, and I can't support both of us. I've told his mom about it, and my mom, and all they told me was that I should support him and give him money since I'm his aunt. I have money, but I can barely afford rent, and they want me to give him money just so he can go spend it. Like, no. I told him that he has to get a job or he can't live with me. Then he threatened to kick me out of my own apartment, so I snapped and I kicked him out. I threw his clothes out and I told him to not come back. Most of my family doesn't want to talk with me right now. They're mad at me, and my cousins are the only ones talking to me. The rest of the family is not. Am I the idiot? Edit. English is not my first language, so sorry for any errors. Update. I want to say thank you to everyone for being brutally honest with me, and I want to clear a few things up. I am the youngest of my siblings, and yes, I get it that maybe it wasn't the best idea to let him live with me, but I raised him, and I really just couldn't leave him like that. And since he said that he would pay, I thought it would be okay, but obviously, it wasn't. But I've cut them out, and I left his stuff in the lobby, and nobody wants to take him, but they want me to take him. Like, no, I'm not going to, so I'm done with them. I gave up everything for that kid, and this is how he repays me. But it's time he learns that I'm not always going to save him. Oh, and I will be making a police report. Also, yes, I am Hispanic, to whoever was asking. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Of course your family is mad at you. Now one of them is going to have to house, feed, and give spending money to this 20-year-old thieving mooch. But you don't have to take him back. And it sounds like he has no idea that he might have tenant rights, so you might have lucked out there. He could have made life even more difficult for you after you have him a 30-day eviction, or whatever your local laws require. You are free now. Enjoy it. Don't be guilted into taking him back. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your nephew's behavior demands consequences. He is breaking way too many rules for you to be a jerk for kicking him out. 1. He's not paying the rent he agreed to. 2. He's doing things he's not supposed to. 3. He's stealing money from your room. 4. He threatened to kick you out of your own apartment. Honestly, he not only deserves to be kicked out, but in fact, it would be a bad lesson for his future if you didn't. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a tense couple of weeks, and I've got some major updates for you. So after I kicked my nephew out, I thought that would be the end of it. But boy, was I wrong. Remember how I mentioned that my family was mad at me? Well, it turns out my nephew had been spinning a web of lies about me to them. He told them that I kicked him out for no reason, and that I was the one using his money. Can you believe that? I found out about his lies when my cousin, who's still talking to me, let it slip during a phone call. She was hesitant at first, but after some pressing, she spilled the beans. My nephew had been playing the victim, telling everyone that I was the bad guy. And the worst part? My family believed him. They thought I was the one betraying him. But here's where it gets juicy. My cousin also told me that my nephew had been bragging to her about how he was going to take over my apartment. He had a plan to get me to move out by not paying rent and making living with him unbearable. He thought that since I had always taken care of him, I would just cave and leave. He even had a friend lined up to move in once I was gone. I was furious. All those years I spent looking after him, and this was how he repaid me? It felt like a slap in the face. I couldn't believe that the little boy I raised could do something so cold and calculated. But I wasn't going to let him win. I decided to confront him. I called him up and asked him to meet me at a coffee shop near my apartment. He showed up, smug as ever, thinking he had me cornered. But I came prepared. I had printed out bank statements showing my withdrawals and his lack of rent payments. I laid it all out on the table, literally. The look on his face when he realized I knew everything was priceless. He tried to deny it at first, but I wasn't having any of it. I told him that I was done being taken advantage of and that he needed to grow up. I also let him know that I would be making a police report about the stolen money. He didn't take it well. He started yelling, causing a scene in the coffee shop. He accused me of being a terrible aunt and said that I was ruining his life. But I stood my ground. I told him that he was the one ruining his own life by betraying the one person who had always been there for him. After our confrontation, I went back to my apartment feeling a mix of emotions. I was angry, hurt, but also relieved that I had finally stood up for myself. I changed the locks that day, just in case he had made copies of the keys. As for my family, well, they're still not talking to me. But after what happened, I'm not sure I want them to. I've realized that I need to surround myself with people who respect and support me, not those who will believe lies and manipulation. It's been tough, but I'm starting to rebuild my life without them. I've been focusing on work and spending time with friends who have my back. It's not easy, but I'm getting there. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.